Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to deliver my inaugural speech, and I begin by acknowledging the traditional people of the land upon which we meet today, the Muanina people, and pay my deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging. Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your election and appointment as Speaker. I also recognise newly elected Labor members, Ella, Anita, Jennifer and Jenna, who I know, like me, must feel humbled to have been elected on this, their first attempt. I want to congratulate all members on their re-election and thank my returning Labor colleagues and those from the other place who have been so supportive. I look forward to working with you all. Madam Speaker, there are some moments in my life of which I'm very proud. Deeply satisfying moments. There are other deeply challenging moments that have placed a great deal of weight and responsibility upon my shoulders. There have also been moments of great reflection about what is, what has been, and what could be. Deeply humbling and motivating moments. And as I stand here in this place today, in this moment, I am proud, challenged, humbled, and motivated. To the people of Franklin, thank you for your vote. I consider it a vote of confidence, but also of challenge, responsibility, humility and enthusiasm. I will always endeavour to do my best to meet and hopefully exceed your expectations. Just over 5,000 people placed their trust and faith in me and gave me their number one vote. And I know that for some of those people it was the first time that they voted Labor. I will work hard to deliver for those people and for all the people of Franklin that I am humbled to have been elected to represent. I promise to offer to those who seek my help compassion and understanding without judgment of situation or circumstance and determination to make a positive difference. Madam Speaker, I would like to share a story with you about two grade 10 students. One very capable with a great deal of support from her family, healthy competition from her peers, and many role models who believed in the value of education. She was consistently told that she was a very bright student. In the schoolyard, approaching the end of her grade 10 year, however, her mother was told that despite being very clever, she couldn't possibly be given the science prize because she was a girl. And by implication, being good at science wouldn't get her anywhere. The other grade 10 girl came from a family where education was not so important. She wanted to do well, but without a school bag or the right books, a quiet place to study and a role model to give her advice, encouragement and support, getting through grade 10 was pretty tough. She loved science but was told at home it wouldn't get her anywhere. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." Madam Speaker, one of these girls is me, and I have worked with the other. I have, since grade 10, had a fierce belief in the importance of a good education, the opportunities it presents, the doors it can open. I know that the early years are the foundation, but relationships, role models, kindness and equitable access to education beyond those early years are also key factors in developing literacy and numeracy, and arguably in developing a healthy, kind, prosperous, innovative and productive society. No matter what a student's background, postcode, gender or history is, it is my belief that an interest and an ability should get you anywhere. This isn't only the responsibility of an education system, but of everyone in the community. Madam Speaker, I have always said that there are no hard jobs, only hard workers. Certainly, I worked as hard in my first paid job as a teenage casual retail assistant as I have as a senior public servant or community leader. Today, as I stand in this place, I'm uncertain what lies before me, but I know this, that I embrace the responsibility of my role as a Member of Parliament, that I intend to work hard, and that I intend to take this opportunity to make a contribution to the lives of all Tasmanians, but especially the people of Franklin and those most vulnerable and marginalised, to give them a voice, and to make a difference. Following a career spanning over 25 years, I hope to bring to this role my experience, my hard work ethic, judgment and a willingness to accept responsibility for my words and actions. I have always admired substance over style, but I hope I can bring a bit of it, a bit of both to my parliamentary career. Madam Speaker, over time I've also learnt the importance of being a good listener. I do not presume to come equipped with experience and knowledge to tackle all the issues I expect to come before me. Instead, I intend to listen well and to have the good judgment and wisdom to weigh that advice carefully, anchored by my values and armed with the determination to act accordingly. Madam Speaker, my father is a retired doctor who worked in the Tasmanian health system for many years, first on the northwest coast, then Launceston and finally Hobart. He worked hard. He worked long hours and was on many occasions the only specialist obstetrician and gynaecologist in the region and on call 24 hours. I didn't see as much of him growing up as I would have liked. Over his career, he delivered around 10,000 Tasmanian babies. And if I had $1 for every time a woman has said to me, "Your father delivered me," or "my children," I'd be a very rich woman. My dad has made an important contribution to women's and children's public health services across Tasmania. He's an early adopter, a pioneer in his field, undertaking further study in fertility and laparoscopic surgery, setting up birthing suites with beanbags and baths, putting women and babies first. He introduced the first ultrasound service in the northern region using, if I recall, a Betamax recorder. At the time, he considered it superior to VHS. He never has had much luck with technology. The dedication, passion and commitment he has for his profession and for teaching, though, is profound. Around 20 years ago, he set up a specialist training program in his field in Tasmania that is so critical to building and retaining our future medical workforce. Most current Tasmanian specialists in his field have trained here. If it wasn't for him and his peers, the model now would likely be a regional model, combining Victoria and Tasmania, and specialists from his field would likely train here and settle elsewhere. My love of learning and my dedication to health and to helping vulnerable people comes from both my parents. My mother was a nurse and, like so many of her generation, made raising her 4 children the main priority over her career. The eldest of 5 children, money was tight and the only boy in the family was given the opportunity to go to university. My mum tirelessly volunteered in our local communities, as well as later establishing her own small retail business. In the 1970s, she was one of a small group of dedicated women who made over 2,000 Christmas puddings every year, which began as a fundraiser to pay the rates for the local Scouts group in Burnie. I understand that tradition continues in Burnie today. My mum was always heavily involved in school parents and friends associations and fairs, and she even ran the school canteen for a while. She has volunteered for numerous charities and even now bakes and makes sandwiches most weeks for her local church's charity shop. She's always been a doer. She doesn't have much time for talkers. Madam Speaker, my parents taught me that if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing properly. Together they modelled hard work, both paid and unpaid, ambition, devotion to one another and to family, generosity and a commitment to community. They gave me confidence and self-belief and taught me my core values of service to the community, hard work and compassion. My older brother was a bright student, but he always said that 51% meant 1% too much effort. He's now a Qantas captain and also passionate about his motorsport. No doubt his attitude to precision has changed, which I am sure is of comfort to the travelling public. My younger brother struggled with learning. We wondered how he'd make his way in the world, but we needn't have worried. He graduated from university with a prize as a surveyor, and today he is a very successful businessman. My younger sister is a gregarious and creative type, and none of us was surprised when she left school to take up a hairdressing apprenticeship. With numerous awards, she is well recognised in her profession because she so cleverly understands customer service as a critical part of business success. Each of us approach learning in our own way, but each of us found our way thanks largely to the value our parents placed on education and training. I am forever grateful for that start in life. Madam Speaker, during my teenage and early adult years at university, I became aware of instances and rumours of sexual assault, bullying and harassment. As a survivor myself, I'm determined to use this time in Parliament through legislative change and leading social and cultural change to tackle injustice in this area. It is my belief that as a society, we've barely scratched the surface of what is a significant and widespread issue. But the Me Too campaign and progress thanks particularly to courageous women, especially in the sporting and entertainment industries, are leading important change. We are witness to an emerging awareness, zero tolerance and willingness to speak out against sexual assault and bullying, and I am proud to add my voice. Madam Speaker, I'm proud to be elected to this Parliament comprising an historic majority of women. I'm also proudly the first openly gay Labor member of the Tasmanian Parliament. I am a proud feminist, and I'm aware that today I stand on the shoulders of community activists, people like Rodney Croom, who will be well known in this place, but also like my Aunt Felicity, an alderman, mature-age university graduate, fierce feminist and lifelong activist. Equality and diversity are important to me, and although in my lifetime I've witnessed important social progress, and marriage equality does come to mind, since women of my age and older and LGBTI people are currently the fastest growing demographics for homelessness in Australia, clearly there is still some way to go. Madam Speaker, another of my lived values is for things to change, first I must change. And I suppose I was in my mid-40s when I realised that the voices of senior public servants and community sector leaders, like me at the time, are often effectively silenced. For example, these people are unable to criticise government through letters to the editor or opinion pieces. They are potentially conflicted even in political association, and they usually can't contribute as experts and thought leaders in community debate. I believe in representative democracy, that is, that our state is best served when its parliamentarians represent the diversity of the community it is expected to represent. And so, when the opportunity came for me to run for Parliament, I saw this as a way for me to add my voice, to stand up, or even get out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat. I hope in some way to represent the large number of public servants and community sector workers in this state who dare not speak out against the government. Madam Speaker, working as an allied health professional in northwest Tasmania, I was confronted by the burden of chronic lifestyle disease, preventable chronic lifestyle disease in the region. I began to understand that while diet contributes to overweight, cardiovascular disease, diabetes and some cancers, for example, there are many other contributors like household budget, upbringing, physical activity and mobility, education and mental health. One profound experience demonstrated to me the value of prevention and early intervention for better health outcomes. For a couple of years, I regularly saw in outpatients clinic a young man in his mid-20s suffering an unusual and dangerous combination of anorexia nervosa and insulin-dependent diabetes. I weighed him every appointment, and when I took his diet history, he told me what he thought I wanted to hear. I realised the zero-sum game we were playing when he was admitted to ICU in a diabetic coma, and the attending doctor showed me his emaciated body just days after one of our appointments. If only we'd had a specialist eating disorders service with a multidisciplinary approach to supporting people like that young man earlier. This experience and many others like it sharpened my commitment to public health nutrition, to provide education, choice and opportunity for people to make healthier food choices and prevent chronic lifestyle disease. Rather than judgment, compassion and understanding, education and, importantly, better policies to foster collaboration, opportunity and provide resources are key to a healthier future for Tasmanians. But I soon learned that working in the health profession is always difficult and complex, and in the face of increasing demand and workforce problems, there are never sufficient resources, and governments always seem to prioritise acute care over preventative health services. I decided to complete a Master of Business Administration to open doors beyond health and the public service. Ironically, although I've made a contribution in other sectors, I have continually come back to the public service because I have realised my values are deeply based in addressing inequality through universal access to strong public health, education and other services. Madam Speaker, it is because of my compassion for people that I am also a strong supporter of safe, voluntary assisted dying laws. I believe it is time for Tasmanians suffering intolerable pain to be given the right to end their own life surrounded by the people they love. I acknowledge the work that Lara Giddings and Cassie O'Connor, together with community sector leaders, have progressed in this area, and I put on record my support to continue it. Madam Speaker, I am a determined, no regrets kind of person. I believe anything is possible with hard work, some good people around you, and, I admit, a bit of luck from time to time. When I became a single mother, the single part wasn't planned. I returned to the workforce as a full-time senior public servant within 9 weeks of the birth. I remember dashing up to the childcare centre to breastfeed my baby during the day and the terrible pain of leaving him with old family friends when I had to travel and stay overnight in Canberra. It wasn't ideal for anyone, but it was necessary, and we made it through, loved, supported and resilient. At this point, I want to acknowledge the support of my son's wonderful early childhood educators for the amazing work they do, not only to improve school readiness for kids like my son, but for all the times they provided support and advice to me. Pauline, Karen, Alethea, Bianca, Simon, Sarah and Katie, you're the best, and I will always fight for appropriate wages and conditions to match your professionalism and the valuable role you play as educators and family support workers. Madam Speaker, I don't regret returning to work so soon. It was the only choice I had if I was to support us, and as fate would have it, it would lead me to the role of General Manager of the Smith family in Tasmania, where I could help make a real difference to disadvantaged children and families to get the most out of their education so that they could create a better future for themselves. This is a role that affected me personally and deeply and would ultimately lead me to stand as a Labor candidate. Madam Speaker, my experience has taught me that better community outcomes could be achieved with greater cooperation between not-for-profit organisations and also between agencies working across communities in high need. In various roles, I've been involved in tackling entrenched disadvantage. Place-based models can work well, and I note that One Community Together, a collective impact approach in Clarence Plains, is showing promising early progress. When communities recognise the need for change and leaders take responsibility in the process, remarkable improvement is possible. In too many communities, well-meaning organisations duplicate services and fragment the service system. And for too long, well-meaning but patronising government and not-for-profit agencies alike have done things to, but not with, communities. Madam Speaker, in the town of Franklin, the Living Boat Trust and Wooden Boat Centre work literally side by side. These organisations do so much to promote tourism, protect maritime heritage, develop skills and training, but importantly also build social capital. Community spaces like these and neighbourhood houses, men's sheds and the like bring people together, build confidence and relationships across the community. It is my belief that people and communities like these don't need a solution, but advocates in Parliament that can take their great ideas, secure the resources to allow them to grow and develop, and find a stage to share and promote this great work so that other communities can benefit from that passion, commitment and innovation. Madam Speaker, During my campaign, I set goals, surrounded myself with a small group of good people, dug in and worked hard. No regrets was my mantra, and I'm so proud to be standing here today. Over the campaign, I began to realise the privilege it was to connect with people and communities across the electorate in this way. I realised that no matter the outcome of the election, I would be forever a better public servant. Throughout my campaign, I was honoured that so many people opened their hearts and minds to me to tell me their stories, their ideas and their concerns. 3 stories stood out to me. Firstly, an Aboriginal woman, a 67-year-old school cleaner who works 20 hours per week, and with her part pension she manages a modest private rental at $200 per week. When I came to her door, she was looking after 3 of her grandchildren. She's looking forward to retirement this year, although she worries that young school cleaners today don't look after kids and families these days the way she'd like. But her landlord plans to sell her home, and she knows she can't afford to buy. Private rental properties are scarce, and she knows that there are many people on the public housing waiting list. She knows she'll be forced to leave her home of nearly 10 years, and she fears she won't be eligible for public housing. Madam Speaker, this woman to me represents the tip of an iceberg in terms of a major problem in housing and homelessness and cost of living today, and I know of many others. A complex problem deserves a sophisticated response, and I hope to contribute to solutions to address these significant issues. And secondly, there was the young man recovering from substance abuse but struggling without the fallback of a residential rehabilitation facility. Clearly, he was couch surfing and dependent upon his friends to keep a roof over his head, but aware that too often youths in his position are drawn back into destructive paths without the proper support. I was struck by his openness and vulnerability. He so badly wants a better life, and by the way, highlighted for me the need for significant improvements in public oral health. So many people I spoke with quite obviously are suffering atrocious pain and suffering as well as expense due to inadequate preventative oral health care. And finally, I spoke with 3 nurses in a week that had decided to leave their profession. One recent graduate felt so overworked and unsupported, firstly in the public system and then the private system, that she had retrained and pursued casual work in hospitality. Now, there's nothing wrong with working with hospitality work, but what struck me was the wasted investment in education and training for that young woman and for our state. Madam Speaker, as a former health professional, I am concerned that we need to do more to retain health workers, not just through competitive wages, but just as importantly, supportive conditions. Throughout the campaign, I was also struck by a growing concern about openness and transparency in government decision-making at all levels of government, and in particular planning and development decisions. I believe that people would like to see more genuine, timely consultation with the community on these decisions. Madam Speaker, my experiences have shaped my values: hard work, no regrets, kindness, loyalty, honesty, respect for diversity and equality. But I have not lived my experiences alone, and I did not run my campaign alone. As I mentioned, I surrounded myself with a small team who advised, strategised, organised and rolled up their sleeves with me. To Rebecca White, for putting your faith in me. I'm proud to have won this second seat for Labor in Franklin, and I'm proud to be part of your team. To Lara Giddings and Fran Bladel, for your belief in me, mentoring me and walking with me on this journey. I cannot thank you enough. In fact, I owe a debt of gratitude to a great many Labor women mentors, but I especially want to thank Julie Collins, Lorena Bromfield, Michelle O'Byrne, Carol Brown, Katrina Billick, Lisa Singh, and my Emily's List mentor, ACT MP Suzanne Orr. Madam Speaker, Jane Atkinson is one of the most hard-working, committed, ethical people I know. Thanks for being my campaign manager, coordinating my field campaign, and for building a small but committed volunteer base to support me. Thank you too to Stuart Benson, Michael, Carell, Gordon, Jared, Megan and all the hard-working people who contributed to the central campaign for your advice and encouragement. Joe and Phil for their marketing expertise, Josh and Harry. Bright young things in the future of the Labor Party. Stephen, Greg, Margaret and my other fellow branch members and the many ALP members who believed in me and our shared cause. The many wonderful volunteers who pounded the pavements with flyers, joined me out door knocking, made phone calls and put up posters, friends and colleagues, many of whom who had never engaged in politics before. Your time and effort were critically important and I hope each of you know that. Maddie, who spent the last couple of weeks of the campaign with me, living in our house, sharing the door knocking load and any other job I asked of you, and keeping me focused no matter how overwhelming things seemed. Neville, who drove down from Launceston most Sundays to letterbox and make, erect and check signs, and Carol for her unswerving belief in me. My parents, who held fundraisers for me in their home, supported my family, door knocked, letterboxed and dug in whenever I needed them. My brother, who took a couple of days to travel from interstate to help out with letterboxing. I know all of my family was in my corner. My dear friends who believed in my campaign enough to donate your time and money and kept my feet firmly on the ground at the same time. You know who you are and I love you. My partner Kate, for keeping things going at home despite working her own demanding full-time job. She also made time to lend her skills helping me with social media, drafting and editing the occasional speech and article. This was our decision together and she has never once doubted it or me. And my son Nicholas, who is as proud of his mum as I am of him. I love you more. Always has the last say. Don't know who he takes after, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the campaign is over and here I am. Hand on heart, I will work hard, surround myself with good people and tackle the roots of inequality. I will fight for the people of Franklin, for access to a good education, to a highly effective health system, for affordable housing, for career pathways and secure jobs, for a safe and kind society and wherever possible put good policy over politics with evidence-based decision-making. And finally, to my Year 10 science teacher, whose name I can't recall now, I say never, ever underestimate my determination.
Well done.